Hey, friends, welcome back to another exciting episode Going Nuclear with Osama. Today, I'm joined by a really special guest, someone I've been waiting a long time to have a conversation with. Her name is Julieta Romero. She is a nuclear engineer from Argentina, and she's also a content creator as well. So, check out her Instagram at jdragones. She's also on TikTok as well. So, Julieta, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Osama. Very excited to be here. Well, as you said, I'm a content creator, so I really look forward to this conversation because you are as well. So we are kind of the same kind in that way.
Yeah,
Very happy.
absolutely. Awesome. Awesome. That's great. Julieta is also a TEDx speaker as well, which I forgot to mention, and also part of the Nuclear for Climate delivery team this year in the communications group. Julieta, so many questions to ask, but let's start off with tell us a little bit about your career journey, like in Argentina. How did you get into nuclear engineering?
Okay, thank you. Yeah. So I've been very drawn to science when I was a little kid. So I loved like physics and mathematics and science, but also at the same time, I was a fan of drawing and artistic sides and dancing and singing. So for me, it was really hard at the very beginning to try to understand what my career path would be. But being raised in Argentina, in a particular place called Bariloche, which is in the south of Argentina, it's Patagonia. People know it because it's very beautiful and stuff. We have there a very big science pole, which is called Centro Atómico Bariloche, which is atomic center of Bariloche. We have a research reactor there, actually. So on that same place, there is an institute which is like very highly regarded in terms of nuclear engineering in the world, actually. So so when I was a kid, I got into contact with that, and a, a it was a great privilege for me to know all that from very like very little. And I got parents of my friends working there, so I started to look inside that world. And yeah, well, when I had to decide a career, I decided that I wanted to be a physicist actually there in that institute because I loved physics. But then when I started to go towards that career, I needed to do 2 years before of some engineering to in order to get into that institute. And that's when I knew engineering was part of my life, because in my family nobody was an engineer. My mother is a kindergarten teacher, my father was a salesman. Nobody in my family is an engineer or knows about engineering. So for me it was a very mind-opening experience to do those 2 years of engineering. So for me the exposition to new things, it's so important that it changed my career actually. So when I was in those 2 years of engineering, I was like mind blown. And then I started in that institute as physicist. Yeah, I started the career of physics. And then I switched to nuclear engineering when I realized that it has all the physics that I really love, plus the engineering that I learned to love after.
That's really cool that you found yourself into engineering since you were in that area, and the typical engineer is usually not someone that's a creative, right? It's kind of, you see the things as polar opposites, but from your content that I've seen, it's incredible. You're an artist, you're a singer, you're a content creator, right? Tell me about that, right? Tell me about those kind of opposite worlds coming together to create something so unique.
Yeah, so that was for me the way to cope with reality when I was studying nuclear engineering, which was really, really hard. I started drawing on the side of the papers, because I always did it. So I love to do it. But then I started to mix science and art, which was amazing because there is a lot of art in science, and there is a lot of science in art. Like to to be able to understand science, you need to have an open mind, because otherwise, like, I don't know, the wave particle physics doesn't make even any sense if you don't have an open mind. So you need to be creative in order to understand science. And at the same time, if you take advantage of the science to do your work as a creative person, it gets so much richer. So I started to explain to my family and friends, because they didn't know anything about engineering, what did I do or what did I study in very short and simple drawings. And I started to love that and their reaction to that, because people really respond when you talk to them on a much more, like, on the same level, because nobody wants to understand something about physics when they just lecture you about it. But if you show them in their terms and in a creative way, what's it like to be fascinated by what you learn, then they engage. So I started to do this, and then I started to do it online, because then more and more friends wanted to see it. So I started to do little videos or drawings about how how fission works, or how a nuclear reactor works. And there is another thing also, that yes, there is a lot of videos in YouTube or whatever of these subjects online, but not a lot of them are in Spanish. So as a Spanish speaking person, that was important for me, because nobody spoke to me like I wanted to in Spanish, in Argentinian, by the way, which is not the same as Spanish. So for me, it was important to share what I learned, and I love to do it. So, and I think people actually see that I love to do it, so they engage even more.
That's phenomenal. No, I definitely see that passion as well come across, and it's great to have a science communicator, a nuclear advocate in Spanish, because a big part of the world speaks that language, right? So it's phenomenal to see that you're providing those resources in that unique language, right? And yeah, you've got fans across the world, even English speakers, right? Another
That's good.
question that I had for you is, like, Argentina is one of the world's, like, it has so many reactors. And I think in South America it's probably the best in terms of nuclear expertise. You have CANDU reactors there, research reactors, other power reactors. Tell me about being in the Argentinian nuclear industry. How's that like?
So it's pretty amazing. We have 3 nuclear power reactors and 5 research reactors, like, across our country, which is quite amazing if you think about it. The other country in South America that has a nuclear power reactor is Brazil, so not many of us in there, and they don't speak Spanish as well. So it's for me, we are kind of unique in that on that term. Then you have Mexico, of course, but for us in the south of America, I think we have a huge amount of expertise and people, very knowledgeable people, good institutions that teach about nuclear engineering, and also we export, like, radioisotopes. So, like, we have a very, very solid industry. And now we are facing, well, we did face in the Candu reactor a life extension, which is a very huge project. And now we have the life extension of Embalse, which is our Candu reactor. And now we are looking forward to do the life extension of Atucha 1. So that would end at the end of next year. So very exciting year for us in the nuclear industry. If everything goes well, we start with that life extension for Atucha 1. And it's 7% of our nuclear energy, of our energy matrix. So it's important for us. Nuclear energy is important for us.
And what does the future look like? I know Argentina is in construction of SMR, right? And there's a lot of movement in terms of electricity needs across continents. What does that look like? Is there growth? Is there growth similar to other countries right now?
So yeah, hopefully with the SMR, we have a CAREM SMR, which is a small modular reactor that it's being built, at least the part, the civil buildings and stuff, they are being built right now. And it's been a huge development for us, because for us, it puts us in the top of the wave, of starting this new nuclear movement that implies having small modular reactors. And we have such a big country that it's very important for us because there are some remote places that would really, really benefit from small nuclear reactors that you choose can drive there, put them there, and just connect them to the grid. So we are very excited for that new development in Argentina.
That's phenomenal, and I think with the expansion of nuclear energy, and you playing such an important role as a science communicator in Spanish, what's that been like? What's the appetite been like? As the is the industry utilizing your resource? Utilizing you as a resource?
I think so, yeah. I mean, CONEA, which is the National Commission of Atomic Energy here, started to invite me to their research reactors to show the people what they do there, because they are starting to realize that people like, I don't know, TikTokers or Instagram influencers or whatever. I don't consider myself an influencer, but I have some followers. So they know that I record things and I go with a genuine curiosity for what they do there, and that is engaging. So yes, they invited me to look at some research reactors. I am talking right now to go to a nanotechnology laboratory. They want to invite me to show the people what Argentina does in these terms, because everything is state. So it's very important for us that we have a very national solid plan of going forward with nuclear, right? And also, well, and now I'm going to move to France, but before I was working with Tucha 1, 2, and Embalse, which are the nuclear power plants in Argentina. And they invited me as well to go ahead and do like some big painting that I will do actually next week in a big showcase, trying to merge this well, the climate change revolution and nuclear like put together to solve some issues. So I'm very excited for that, and I'm very happy that they are realizing that they need to reach the people, the normal people, which is everyday people that don't know about physics, that don't understand about nuclear, and they have to reach to them and tell them, this is what we do, this is why we do it, and we love what we do.
Well, I love that. I love that. I hope that the art piece is published online, because I'm a big fan of art, especially visual paintings. Tell me about the concept there. What do you have any ideas of what you're gonna paint?
Yeah, so it has to be quite simple because I have to do it in 1 or 2 days. I don't have a lot of time, and it's also on the floor, so it will be big, like 10 meters per 10 meters, so it's very big. So I imagined doing a flower with like the flower would be the atom, and then you would go and walk around this flower, and inside the petals you will read about the journey of how we everybody uses energy. We need this energy, but we need this energy to be clean, because otherwise we will not have a world to work on. And what are clean energies and how these are renewables and non-renewables, because I want people to understand that it's not only renewables that are clean. And then why do we use nuclear energy? And this whole story will develop in each of the petals, so as you walk around them, because it will be on the floor. So hopefully it works. Already did a sketch, so we'll see.
That's a really cool idea. So this flower represents all the energy sources working together to make a more sustainable world.
Absolutely.
Wow, wow, that's really phenomenal. Is there a piece of art that you've made that's your favorite, and why? Like, tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I started to make some series of drawings that really mix science with art, with fantastic art, because I really love, you mentioned before my handle in Twitter and Instagram or whatever. It's called J, which is J from Julieta, and then it's called Dragones, which means dragons, so dragones. It's also JDR, which is Julieta Daniela Romero, my name. But I love drawing dragons. This whole thing was about I love drawing fantasy worlds as well. So I like to mix them with science as if I can. So for example, there was one time when I drew an atom of dragons. So you would see like very very tiny dragons in the middle, and then a cloud of blue dragons because electrons for me are blue. I know this is a whole discussion. um, and then to express, like for example, the scattering area of like a neutron trying to go into that, representing fission. So and I put the formula up there. So it sounds very complicated, but it's actually a nice drawing. And if you know what it means, it makes like even more sense. But if you don't, it's just a nice drawings about dragons. So I think that would be kind of my favorite uh, bits. Also, I did one with a cat falling and keeping the angular momentum because the cats do that to fall on their 4 feet. So expressing all the stages of the cat when it turns and all the formulas on the sides, which I really loved because that's for me that's the beauty in science.
Well, yeah, those are some really cool concepts. And yeah, I was always wondering, like Dragonis, like where does that come from, like the interest? But now that I'm hearing that you love dragons, you love fantasy, it's starting to make sense.
But
Yeah.
you can also even say about that nuclear energy for me, it's kind of depicted like a dragon, you know? It's a very it's a very powerful creature, you know? Dragons are seen as mighty and powerful and sometimes dangerous, but if you read the stories, they are quite noble instead. And so they keep this fire inside that you know, it's for me it's the energy they have. And it was known at the very beginning because it made a lot of, well, um, it was really really bad how it started, but gathering that energy and that power to do something good, for me it's what represents nuclear industry as well.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. Wow. Like I now I see the link, right? And they are powerful, very powerful
Yes,
creatures, right? Um, so I guess the ability to do good or be elements of destruction. I'm sure you focus on the the positive
the good
aspects.
part.
Yeah,
Yes,
phenomenal. Wow. Like
absolutely.
yeah, I love that
So
comparison.
yeah, if nuclear was an animal, what would it be? For me it would be a dragon.
Damn. Okay, nuclear powered dragons. I like that. Tell me about your TEDx talk. I'm a big fan of TEDx. Like if I have a weekend free, that's what I'm watching, right? Inspirational, it's educational, and just phenomenal speakers, right? Tell us about the opportunity that you got to be on TEDx.
Well, that was an amazing opportunity that was given to me by a local TEDx here in Argentina. It was the pandemics. It was during the pandemic, so I didn't get a public, but I did get all the coaching, which is amazing. Um, and I started to try to understand what story would I want to tell. And I think my story was around three points mainly. So the first one was like I didn't have just one passion, you know. Everybody, the speech, it's usually like, oh, you go ahead, you have one passion, you do it, you give your 100% to that passion. And I didn't have one passion, just one. I had many. So I had to try to understand would I walk through this path of loving more than one thing and not lose anything on the way, you know? So that was my main path of the talk, and how hard it was for me to try to put something aside for one moment and then going back for it and stuff. But then the second part, or the, well, it would be the third one, because one is the engineering, the other one is art, but the third one is being a woman in this world, because also by studying engineering I got caught up with a lot of people judging me for it, you know. Because yeah, I mean, Argentina is quite progressive in terms of gender and stuff, but we still have this mindset of, oh, engineering is for boys, or it will be very hard for you, why do you want to study something like that, etc. So for me, it was also trying to go through with my career, trying to make people understand that I was there because I wanted to be there and I had the right to be there, and I was as capable as everybody. So in the end, my talk closes with, hey, we need people in STEM, we need people in engineering, in science, in mathematics, and we need diversity there. So we need women, but we also need other diversities. And also we need creative diversity. So we need all these kinds of people there, because we get even more rich, like we get richer understanding of science and technology and solution making by having more points of view, not less. So that was it.
Yeah, thanks for that in a nutshell. And hey, in the description below, I will attach a link to that TEDx talk. It is in Spanish, but I'm sure there's subtitles that you guys can check it out. Um, that's a great message. That's a phenomenal message, right? I love the gender diversity piece, right? That's really important, right? To encourage the new generations of engineers, scientists, right? And also content creators, right? I really relate to that as well because um, I'm in the same boat, right? I'm a nuclear engineer, content creator, love, creating educational videos on YouTube, and also like it's it's hard to showcase to someone that I'm I'm a technical specialist, but I'm also a creative person, right? It's very difficult to find those people, right? They don't grow on trees, right? So, um, yeah, I would love to watch that TEDx talk. I'll definitely get a chance to check it out after this discussion. But tell me about that balance, right? Balancing both of those pieces. How's that like?
So it's really hard. I mean, in terms of I don't get much sleep, but because I feel like I need more hours to live, to do everything that I want to do. There's a lot of things that I just don't finish or whatever. But I think it's worth the try. I mean, of course, I have my day job and I work in engineering as I'm a nuclear safety engineer, basically, because I've been 10 years working in safety and safeguards. And now I will go to WANO. So this will take a lot of time for me. But at the same time, I come back in the afternoon and I really like stay and work to draw, or at night I try to put up some videos. I always keep thinking, like during the daytime as well, like, oh, this could be a nice idea to explain to people, or this is a good, like, excuse to explain this or that. I mean, I keep trying to being open to my surroundings, to gather information on what people would like to see, on what people would like to understand or to learn. I try to do that.
That's great. So your work, everyday work inspires your creative side, right? And in your free
Absolutely.
time, that's an outlet for you. It's a downtime for you.
Exactly.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And tell me about you're starting a new career journey in France, and tell me about that switch, right? Like you're going from two very different nations, and that's something that I always think about as well, right? Like maybe taking my career internationally, diversifying the career, and I think Europe is a great place to be, especially France, right? Like the industry's booming. Tell me about that. How has that been?
Yeah, well, it's quite scary, but it's all right. I mean, I always love to go out from my comfort zone, so I started doing that um, actually 2 years ago when I went to Wano as a secondee. So I was 2 years in Wano working for them, and I felt it was a great place to know lots of different nationalities, but also how they work with the nuclear industry in other places. And it broadened up my mind, and knowing all these people that are really engaged with nuclear in other parts of the world, and let them know also what we have in Argentina and what we do in Argentina, for me is very important. So when I had this chance to go to France permanently, let's say, because nothing is permanent in life, everything moves. But for now, yeah, I have a longer chance to stay in France now. I really took it because I feel like I will broaden up really my limits. I will learn a lot about the industry that of course if you stay in the same place you get really really specialized in something, but then you don't have like the bigger view, you know. I really like the broad view of nuclear, of how we are doing in the industry, how the trends are, like analyzing what we are going to in terms of history, in terms of safety, which is amazingly interesting. So yeah, I'm very happy to take this place, and I will give everything, and I hopefully will meet a lot of more people than I do now, being in Argentina, which is kind of far away from everywhere.
Yeah, yeah, you're in the heart of Europe's nuclear hub, right? So I think that's going to be a incredible opportunity. What are you excited about in terms of being in France now?
Well, right now it's about trying to fit in the society and everything, but of course let's see like what the nuclear politics will be there as well. Like for me it's very interesting. It's a strong nuclear country, it's the strongest nuclear country, so for me it's quite amazing to live there and to see on firsthand how the people feel about nuclear and what the future will look like in some years, right?
Yeah,
I'm very
absolutely.
excited for that.
Absolutely, and also, what about French? Right, I've heard that the English speakers and Spanish speakers, if you know two out of the three languages, the third is easier to learn. Is that true?
I think so. Yeah. For
Okay,
me, I also did some German in my school here in Argentina, so I actually know a little bit of German, a little bit of French because I've been 2 years there, and well, Spanish and English quite all right. But yeah, I think it helps. It really helps. Actually, reading for me in French is super easy because it's almost the same words. It's the pronunciation, the tricky part, of course.
and the conjugations, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. No, that's cool. That's really cool. And yeah, I guess so. You know, you're part of the communications team for the Nuclear for Climate organization, which is organization, for those that don't know, that is a representation from nuclear advocates, educators from across the world coming together. I think 30 or so of them to represent the nuclear energy industry at the world's largest climate change conference. And this year it's going to be at Dubai. So tell me about your experiences being a part of that group.
Oh, well, it has been amazing. I mean, to have this very solid group of people that comes together and tries to figure out what's the next great thing to publish to make people understand how important nuclear is for climate. It has been an amazing experience. Like there is people from all around the world. I'm very happy to be representing South America at the very least because I'm the one from South America. So it's great to see the perspectives of everyone and to get together and communicate this one big message we have, which is we need nuclear if we want to make a climate change, but the good one, not the bad one, you know? So if we want to change our situation, we need to get together and we need to understand that nuclear is part of the answer to this problem. So it has been really an enriching experience. I have learned a lot about my peers. I have learned a lot during the creation of the position paper and the communication of this position paper. So I'm really happy sharing also in my circle of Spanish speaking people, let's say mostly Argentinian, but there are others. Also, this initiative, which is very interesting. And I'm very happy that we actually translated the position paper into Spanish because now people can read with one barrier less, which is language, which sometimes is really hard. So we can get across more people around the world.
It's phenomenal. I love the accessibility piece, right? That's really important. And You're right. Like working with an international group and having that same belief that nuclear energy is an important part of the solution for climate change. It feels great. Tell me about the perception of nuclear in Argentina overall. Like from your perspective, what's the general feel like in terms of the regular people, and is there a bit of a change going on in the positive direction?
Absolutely. So at the very beginning, when I started to study, like, you know, 15 years ago, I would say, it was quite negative. I mean, people were like, "Oh, nuclear energy, we don't like that, whatever." But they didn't even know that we had nuclear energy in our country. So there was a lot of people that was against it, but they didn't even know that Argentina had nuclear reactors. I think nowadays the things have changed, and it's a lot about being able to communicate how nuclear is doing in Argentina. That we have a lot of projects, and that we are dealing very well with the aging of the nuclear reactors and everything. So I think right now there is a change, a positive change on the views of Argentinian people towards nuclear energy, definitely. So now people are kind of proud that we have these nuclear power plants. I mean, at the very least, on the places that we have the nuclear power plants, they are very loved. Like they want to work there. They feel proud that their sons or daughters work there. You know, this is the feeling that we have. And also there is started to be like generations of people that were working there that are now working, like their children are working now there in the nuclear power sector. So it started to be like a very, yeah, a matter of proudness. You know, they are very proud that they work in that industry. So I'm very happy about the this change of mood towards nuclear.
Yes, phenomenal. It's good to know that things are changing for the better, and even here in Canada, and I feel like this is a trend across the world now, where people are getting a little bit more pragmatic when it comes to energy, and they're like second guessing the new generations, especially. They're a lot more technology agnostic, right? They're like, hey, listen, we need to get to net zero because our situation right now is not working, right? We're not getting there from simply throwing up windmills and solar panels, right? Like we need more solutions. So it's good to know that there's the same kind of perspective in Argentina as well.
Yeah, not only that, but people are starting to realize that climate change, it's a thing and it's starting to affect people. You know, here it's winter right now, and yesterday we had like, I don't know, 26 degrees Celsius, and it's not normal. It's just not normal. So, and then we had like a huge rain. We had a floodings and stuff. So it's starting to be very evident that we will have high weather peaks, and it will start affecting people sooner rather than later, and that we need to do something.
Interesting. Yeah, I was just that was actually going to be my second question. Like, how is Argentina being impacted by climate change? Is
Oh,
it? Yeah, tell me about that.
yeah. Well, you know, Argentina is a large country, so we have from north to south at least 3,000 kilometers. Um, So as you can imagine, the southest part, it's almost near to the pole. Actually, is the nearest, like, is the most southern part of the world, uh, which is like at the very end and very close to the pole. So it's very cold there. And then we have in the north some like very hot weather. So it's at the same time very cold and very hot on the country. But these changes have started to be more violent and and higher. So that brings up a lot of problems. For example, right now in the winter when it should be cold, at least in Buenos Aires, it's not very cold or very hot, you know, normally. But since it's not so cold, now the mosquitoes that have dengue, you know, the, there is a sickness transmitted by the mosquitoes here, they start to come back in winter. They shouldn't. So people are being affected again in terms of this sickness. So people are getting sicker because of the climate change, actually. And there's a lot of droughts, and that affects the crops. And Argentina exports crops. So this affects our whole economy. This affects our well-being. Of course, I will be fine, but the people which are poorer will be terribly affected by this. So it's time to start getting conscious of this. Like, climate change is not only about being progressive and because, hey, I love climate. It's about the well-being of the people that have less.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that this is happening, but it's important for I think the world to know that every country is kind of being impacted, right? And it's good to know what's going on the ground. And one question that I had was, what about collaboration in South America, right? You have Brazil, you have Argentina, you have Mexico as well. Um, how are they collaboratively working to develop their nuclear supply chain, right? Or um, like how are there other countries in South America that are also looking at Argentina as a leader in nuclear and saying that, hey, listen, we need to get some of these reactors ourselves?
There are some collaborations. I think there's a group called Latinos, which is about um, giving support in terms of nuclear for the Latin people, and this is where Brazil comes in, and Argentina, and I think also Mexico. And so they share information, they collaborate in terms of workshops and stuff. They do benchmarking between each other. So it's really important that for us, because of course we have a different reality that just being in Europe or in the States or whatever. So on the big ones, so we need to stick together as tiny nuclear countries, and it's very important for us to share the same space and to collaborate. So yes, we do have that collaboration going on.
Okay, that's good to know. That's good to know that there's a bit of a there's a bit of a diversity in the supply chain there. Another question I had was, I looked into some of the technologies that are being used in Argentina in the nuclear industry, and I was really impressed. Right, like the CARAM reactor, it's like their own indigenous design. It's being one of the first small modular reactors being built. Right, like I think Argentina is so far ahead of even a lot of the Western nations. Right, they've got like research reactors, which are their own designs that are being built, right? And you don't see that in a lot of the developing nations. Like, tell me about
Yes, we
how that's
we
going
even
on.
export. I mean,
Oh, interesting.
Argentina even exports research reactors. There is one company called Invap, which is based in Bariloche, where I come from, actually, which is in the south of Argentina, remember? And this company has built reactors in Australia, uh, I think in Pakistan, and now they are working in a project with the Netherlands, actually. So it's called the Palace. But it's about, I think, radios isotope production or something. But I mean, this company has like a lot of potential to grow, and it is growing already. But we have like great know-how of nuclear engineering and, yeah, and design and research, that it makes me very very proud of our country, actually. And yes, it's I think it puts us in a very high spot in terms of South America, in terms of the nuclear, right, in the nuclear world. I think we are some sort of reference for some other countries as well, and it makes me really proud, of course.
Oh yeah, that's definitely something to be proud of. And tell me, like, how is the country doing that, right? Um, like how does it have that willpower and initiative to deliver these things? Is there a lot of support from the government, or are yeah? Tell me about that.
Well, Argentina has a really controversial story on terms of government and stuff, but I think mainly, well, I just read an article that was written yesterday about the story of nuclear in Argentina. The nuclear world in Argentina. So it started very close to the military, because it was a very stable entity in Argentina at some point. But then it started to go to the research part, and the state put a lot of infrastructure and resources there. And we also have, well, where I studied nuclear engineering, it's a public university, and it's funded by the state, and everybody can study there. And we have public universities and public education in general. So that was very, very important, I think, for the development of the know-how in Argentina, because people could access to this knowledge. People could access and share this knowledge. And I think people get very passionate about what they get from this. You know, you get to learn because the state gave you the opportunity, and then you want to give back. You know, you want to start spreading also the knowledge into other people. So a lot of people that actually work in the nuclear industry end up teaching in these institutions. And and again, it makes like a very good like cycle, you know, where people get understanding, and then they teach, and then they share this understanding, and it just builds up towards excellence. And but yeah, without the help of the state, I don't think this would have been possible, because it's just not profitable at the beginning, you know.
It's really cool. Wow, that's yeah. Like you, that makes a lot more sense, right? That this publicly funded universities, um, they they create that expertise. And so, are the universities in Argentina like for that offer this nuclear program? Are they completely free of cost?
Yeah, yeah. I went there, and even, well, in nuclear engineering in particular, you had to win a scholarship to go. So you had to go through an exam and everything. But once you got in, you even got paid to study. So not only I studied these first 2 years in a public university, so I didn't have to pay absolutely anything, my taxes, of course. But you know, in terms of gratuity, yes, I was able to study debt free. And then I went in this institution with a scholarship. So I was able to study and not work while I was studying, because this is also a problem where people, well, they have to study, but they also have to work. So it gets a bit like they get behind, a little bit behind on the career. So yeah, for me it was a great possibility, because otherwise I would have to, I don't know, ask my parents to give me money, and they didn't have this money. So I mm, may have not studied in the first place if this wasn't free for me.
That's phenomenal. That's incredible that the country's offering that resource. I think Canada should adopt the same thing, right?
Of
But
course, of course. I
if the
mean,
prime
we are
minister's
very
listening to this podcast.
honestly. In Argentina, one of the things, like, every we have a lot of differences on with the people, but one thing for sure that everybody's very happy of is that we have public schools, public university, and healthcare. So for us, this is huge. Even
Yeah,
in the worst times of crisis, we have these things, you know.
very nice, very nice. I think that's one challenge that Canada is having, is we just don't have enough people to to run the facilities that we're gonna build, or even build those facilities. And I think looking to Argentina, one of the lessons learned that I can hear from this conversation is that, hey, why don't we offer free education for those in a nuclear specialization, right? It was a great incentive to actually get the kids get the right expertise at the right time, and do it in advance, right? So that's really phenomenal. And yeah, I think this conversation really brings to light a lot of what's going on in Argentina. I feel like a lot of folks in the nuclear industry, especially me, um, I just didn't know about the industry in Argentina and how exceptional it is, right? So this is a really cool conversation. And yeah, I think um, you know, in terms of being in the industry and kind of and also being a content creator, what do you see in the future? Like, what are some of your future goals?
Well, I really hope that even more people get to know Argentina as the nuclear country we are, because again, as you said, like you didn't know about Argentina being nuclear. Like there's a lot of people that don't even know where Argentina is on the map, which is, it's okay. I mean, there are some countries I don't know where they are on the map, but for me it's important that people know that we develop uh, science, we develop technologies, and we put ourselves there because we can. And that means countries which are not very known, they can and they should. I mean, it's I hope that this just replicates in other countries that get the possibility to do nuclear, you know. In terms of my own goals is just make people in Argentina aware of nuclear if they are not, and they learn. And for me, I really want them to understand that we are a great country for nuclear, and we have very good people working on it.
Phenomenal. I think that's a great message, and I think those are some great goals, right? Because the need, I feel like the need for education and the need for education, and especially in Spanish, it will actually keep growing, right? So I think you're definitely providing incredible service to that country and to the Spanish speaking people of the world. It's been a pleasure having this discussion. I really enjoyed this chat. Uh, is there any last messages you want to leave with the audience?
Thank you very much for this space, for this podcast. And I just want to say that I hope more people go ahead and study nuclear engineer because it's what they love, because they discover it from this conversation, for example. And I hope in this group of people, there will be a lot of women and diversities that also do so. So for me, it's very important to spread the message and to share this kind of conversation. So thank you very much, Osama. You're doing a great job.
It's my pleasure, and thanks for coming on the podcast.